Hey guys, let's get more news about Dallas, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Dodgers Mookie Betts calls out Dallas Cowboys superstar. Dallas Cowboys star Micah Parsons has quickly become a greatly followed social media personality. He and Houston Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud recently went viral for a clip where they talked about how they would fare in MLB. Los Angeles Dodgers star and former MVP Mookie Betts weighed in during his podcast on Bleacher Report. Parsons suggested he could hit between .180 and .200 across a 162-game season. Stroud resoundingly disagreed. Betts and his podcast guest, Texas Rangers Marcus Semien, discussed Parsons' claims during the June 12 episode of On Base Live. The Dodgers star had a strong opinion of Parsons' confidence. Parsons not only thinks he can hit the ball but do it pretty consistently at the major league level. While .200 isn't a great batting average, there are big league players hitting at or below that mark. For Parsons to think he can do so seems like a stretch. Betts and Semien acknowledged the fact that there are good hitters in MLB hitting near the .200 mark right now. Betts was not high on Parsons' claims, despite his athletic abilities. "Micah, you are a phenomenal athlete, top tier," said Betts. "No chance you can hit between .180 and .200. You can do a lot of things, and a lot of things successfully, but hitting a baseball is not one of them." Betts went on to mention his teammate Tyler Glasnow's thoughts. Glasnow told Chris Ross on his podcast, The Chris Ross Rotation, that Parsons could get 5 hits in 500 at-bats. Betts suggested that he would not get a single hit. Semien was more optimistic. "I'd probably say no," Semien responded to Betts saying Parsons would get 0 hits in 500 at-bats. "Somebody will tell him to drop down a bunt at least 6 times out of 500. Betts won the American League MVP in 2018. He has been at the top of the game and is still one of the best hitters in the majors, with a .309 batting average for the Dodgers. He is more than qualified to speak on the difficulty level of hitting a baseball. Betts isn't the first former MVP to make such a claim about hitting. Back in 2021, former MVP Christian Yelich of the Milwaukee Brewers said that an average person would not record a single hit in 1,000 pitches against Jacob deGrom. "I think there's a chance you could maybe foul tip one," said Yelich on Pardon My Take. "If there was an actual defense out there, getting a hit, there's no chance. You would go 0 to 1,000. Obviously, Parsons is not an average person. He is a 2-time NFL first-team All-Pro. However, Parsons has never played baseball at any level. In MLB, there are currently 4 qualified hitters batting between .180 and .200. Randy Arozarena of the Tampa Bay Rays, Mitch Garver of the Seattle Mariners, Eugenio Suarez of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and George Springer of the Toronto Blue Jays are the 4 hitters hitting at the level Parsons claimed he could. Hitting between .180 and .200 is not actually a sign of a good hitter, despite some big names on that list. Garver has won a Silver Slugger and Springer has won 2. Arozarena, Garver, and Springer have all been named to the All-Star game in their careers. Some of the game's best are having down years and hitting at the mark Parsons says he could. Mixed shots, taking a peek at that first opponent. All seems quiet on the star front so far this week, save working out a few UFL players with NFL experience and the potential to sign a couple since the Cowboys had saved 4 spots on the 90-man roster just in case something caught their fancy. Having temporarily hit the mute button includes the paused status of CeeDee Lamb, since far too many just assumed since Justin Jefferson signed his extension last week that CeeDee's deal was just around the corner. Not so. And as explained last week, it's complicated. So thought would provide a little Cleveland Browns update, since the Cowboys open with the Browns on September 8 at once again named Cleveland Browns Stadium, departing from the First Energy naming rights. Here are the first 2 things that caught my eye. First, at quarterback. Remember, initially this was supposed to be Deshaun Watson's team. But the veteran QB started just 6 games last year, completing only 1 pass in that 6th before suffering what turned out to be a season-ending shoulder injury. The Browns then started 4 more quarterbacks: Joe Flacco, 5, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 3, P.J. Walker, 2, and Jeff Driscoll, 1. Yet somehow finished 11-6 and qualified for the AFC playoffs, creating a little NFL history by becoming the first team to reach the playoffs when starting 5 quarterbacks during the regular season, finishing with then 38-year-old veteran Joe Flacco starting the final 5 and again in the first round of the playoffs, a 45-14 loss to Houston. But at least he earned himself the AP NFL Comeback Player of the Year award, the oldest to do so since Jim Martin in 1963. But Flacco has moved on. It's Watson's team again, and while throwing for the first time in Tuesday's minicamp practice since his season-ending shoulder surgery on November 21st, there is some uncertainty if he will be ready to start in the opener against the Cowboys. Next in line at QB is Jameis Winston, then Thompson-Robinson and Tyler Huntley. The Browns have even more uncertainty at this point at running back, since star rusher Nick Chubb is on the road to recovery after 2 knee surgeries interrupted his 2023 season, the second for a torn ACL the second week of November, and this after an early season surgery to repair knee damage to his medial capsule, meniscus, and MCL. It's not a given he will be ready for the season opener. And even though the Browns signed Nyheim Hines in free agency, he still is rehabbing the torn ACL suffered last summer in training camp with the Bills. As you can see, other people have problems, not just the Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys to replace Dak Prescott with Super Bowl-winning quarterback in latest bold prediction. The Dallas Cowboys' largely non-existent contract negotiations with quarterback Dak Prescott have hung over the organization like an anvil throughout this offseason, but an alternative solution at quarterback could be on the horizon. Prescott's $55.132 million cap hit in 2024 likely played a significant factor in the Cowboys' largely sitting out free agency and the franchise's inability to sign prolific wide receiver CeeDee Lamb or All-Pro linebacker Micah Parsons to long-term contract extensions this offseason. While Prescott enters the 2024 campaign in his contract year, playing for a lame duck head coach in Mike McCarthy, Dallas could turn to a veteran with a Super Bowl ring on his finger in 2025 should the Cowboys decide to turn the page completely next winter. Following 2 disappointing seasons in Denver, including a 2023 campaign where it became obvious Russell Wilson wasn't a fit for Broncos head coach Sean Payton's offense, the former Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl winner signed a prove-it deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. Wilson is set to compete with Justin Fields, acquired via a trade with the Chicago Bears, for the starting job and perhaps even as an audition to be the Steelers' long-term solution. However, according to at least one NFL analyst, Wilson could be on the move, again, next offseason. Bleacher Report's Brad Gagnon put together a list of veteran quarterbacks likely playing out their final season with their current teams in 2024, including a wild scenario that could see Wilson landing with the Cowboys to replace Prescott. Wilson is coming off back-to-back brutal seasons in Denver, Gagnon points out for BR, but we're still talking about a 9-time Pro Bowler who shouldn't be that far beyond his prime at age 35. If a fresh setting gets him back on track on a 1-year prove-it contract in Pittsburgh, the Steelers could have trouble keeping him in place. That said, if Wilson has sudden success again with the Steelers, he and the team will likely be motivated to extend their relationship. And it helps that, according to Spotrac, Pittsburgh is projected to enter 2025 with more salary cap space than all but 3 other teams. Regardless, a leap to replace Prescott in Dallas or Murray in Arizona could make sense. Jerry Jones has said many of the right things publicly regarding Prescott's future, but if the Cowboys do look in a different direction, it's difficult to envision Wilson topping the list. However, the structure of Wilson's contract does seem to point to this season being a make-or-break season with the Steelers, so anything is possible. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Russell Wilson? Leave your opinion in the comments.